what you're thinking right now. This thought, this awareness, this consciousness you're experiencing, what is it? A machine also thinks, processes data, makes decisions, learns things. So then, what's the difference between humans and machines? This is the question that's become the most important one of our time, because we're living in a world where AI, artificial intelligence, is becoming more powerful every single day. It beats chess grandmasters. It diagnoses diseases from medical images better than doctors. And now it's writing stories, creating paintings, composing music. But there's one question on everyone's mind. Can AI ever become human? Can it ever think the way we think? Can machines ever feel what we feel? In today's video, we're going to explore this silent battle. A battle that's not happening in labs or research centers, but inside our own minds. A battle where on one side is AI's unlimited computing power and on the other side is the mysterious consciousness of the human brain. And I'm warning you right now, by the end of this video, you're going to see yourself differently. Let's dive in. First, let's understand how AI actually thinks. When you ask ChatGPT a question and it gives you a perfect answer, it feels like it's thinking, understanding. But the truth is, it's not thinking at all. This might sound strange, but everything AI does is just pattern recognition. That's it. Imagine you have a library with billions of books. Every book contains words, sentences, and the relationships between them. Now, if someone asks you, "What is love?" you search through all these books for patterns connected to love and organize them into an answer. That's exactly what AI does. It has literally seen billions of sentences on the internet. It's observed which words commonly follow love, which sentences make sense, which patterns repeat, and when you ask, "What is love?" it simply reorganizes those patterns into a response that's statistically most likely to make sense. Michael Eysenck, one of the world's leading cognitive psychologists, explains it perfectly in his book AI versus Humans. He says AI matches or exceeds human ability in mathematical calculations, complex games like chess and Go, and even medical diagnosis. But here's the kicker. AI systems don't actually think, infer, reason, or understand while they're processing information. They lack what psychologists call cognitive skills. They're just incredibly sophisticated prediction machines. Think about it this way. When AlphaGo beat the world champion at Go, one of the most complex games ever created, it didn't experience victory. It had no sense of achievement, no pride, no understanding of what the game even meant. It was just running calculations, predicting the next move based on millions of games it had analyzed. But here's where it gets really interesting. The human brain? It does something completely different. When you think about love, your brain doesn't just search for patterns. It pulls from your memories, the time your heart broke, the warmth of your mother's hug, the nervous excitement of a first date. It connects emotions, bodily sensations, past experiences, and abstract concepts all at once. Your brain creates meaning. His AI just finds correlations. And this brings us to the real question. If AI can perform so many human tasks without actually thinking, what is thinking? This is where things get deep. Consciousness is one of the greatest mysteries in science. We all know what it feels like to be conscious. You're experiencing it right now. But explaining how it works? That's where even the smartest scientists struggle. Daniel Dennett, one of the most famous philosophers of our time, spent his entire career trying to explain consciousness. In his groundbreaking book Consciousness Explained, he argued that consciousness isn't some magical thing. It's just what brains do when they process information in complex ways. He called it the multiple drafts model. According to Dennett, there's no single place in your brain where consciousness happens. Instead, your brain is constantly running multiple parallel processes, creating and editing different drafts of reality simultaneously. It's like having multiple screenwriters working on the same script at the same time, each contributing different pieces, and somehow the final story emerges from all that chaos. But here's the problem with Dennett's view. Even if we understand how the brain processes information, we still can't explain qualia, the subjective experience of being you. What's qualia? It's the redness you see when you look at a red apple. The pain you feel when you stub your toe. The taste of chocolate on your tongue. these raw personal experiences that you can't fully describe to anyone else. You could study the wavelength of red light hitting your retina. You could map every neuron firing in your visual cortex. But you still wouldn't capture what red actually feels like to you. And this is the hard problem of consciousness. The philosopher David Chalmers explained it best. You can describe all the physical processes in the brain, but you can't explain why any physical process should give rise to subjective experience at all. Why does it feel like something to be you? Now, here's where AI falls completely short. Current AI systems have zero qualia. None. When ChatGPT writes a poem about sadness, it doesn't feel sad. When an AI generates a sunset painting, it doesn't experience the beauty. So when Alexa responds to your voice, it doesn't hear anything. There's no inner experience. Know what it's like to be that AI. It's processing inputs and generating outputs, but there's nobody home, no consciousness experiencing any of it. Some researchers argue that maybe, just maybe, if we build AI systems complex enough, consciousness could emerge. Like how wetness emerges from water molecules, maybe consciousness could emerge from complex computation. But there's a massive problem with this idea. AI systems, no matter how advanced, are based on fundamentally different architecture than biological brains. They're data-driven prediction machines. They learn by adjusting mathematical weights in neural networks based on error correction. But consciousness in humans seems to require something more. It requires embodiment, having a body that interacts with the world. It requires emotions, chemical reactions that color our experiences. It requires a sense of self that develops over time through lived experience. Max Lauwers, a professor of cognitive psychology and AI, puts it beautifully in his book, Understanding Artificial Minds Through Human Minds. He explains that while AI and human minds might seem similar on the surface, they're fundamentally different in how they process information and, most importantly, in whether anyone is actually experiencing that processing. Think about it this way. You can feel your heartbeat when you're nervous. You can sense the tension in your shoulders after a long day. You can remember the smell of your grandmother's kitchen. You dream. You daydream. You get lost in thought. All of these experiences are rooted in your biological existence. You're not just processing information, you're living through it. AI has none of that. It's not embodied. It doesn't have a nervous system. It can't feel its own existence because there's no self there to feel anything. Now let's talk about what makes human minds truly special. Creativity. Real creativity. Not just remixing existing patterns, but genuinely creating something new that breaks the rules. AI can create impressive art. It can write coherent stories. It can compose music that sounds beautiful. But there's a crucial difference. AI's creativity is what researchers call combinatorial. It takes existing elements and combines them in novel ways. It's like having access to every Lego brick ever made and building new structures by following patterns it's learned. Human creativity? It's transformational. Humans don't just combine existing ideas. We break paradigms. We create entirely new frameworks for thinking. We invent jazz when everyone's playing classical music. We paint abstract art when realism dominates. We write poetry that defies every grammatical rule. Why? Because human creativity is driven by things AI doesn't have. Emotion. When Picasso painted Guernica, he wasn't just arranging shapes and colors. He was pouring his horror at the Spanish Civil War onto canvas. That emotional depth, that lived experience of suffering shaped every brushstroke. AI can analyze Guernica. It can create paintings in Picasso's style, but it can never paint from a place of genuine emotional experience because it has never experienced anything. Intuition. Human minds make leaps that don't follow logical steps. You're working on a problem, you take a shower, and suddenly, eureka! The solution appears out of nowhere. That's not random. That's your unconscious mind making connections between seemingly unrelated experiences, emotions, and knowledge. Neuroscience shows that these aha moments involve complex brain activity across regions related to memory, emotion, and intuition working together. AI doesn't have aha moments. It computes. When it produces unexpected results, that's not insight. That's emergent behavior from algorithmic complexity. And then there's meaning-making. This might be the most important human ability of all. Humans don't just process information. We create meaning from it. We build narratives. We tell stories that help us make sense of our lives. Your brain is literally wired for storytelling. Neuroscience research shows that the hippocampus, your brain's memory center, doesn't just store individual facts. It weaves experiences together into coherent narratives. When you remember your childhood, you're not accessing a database of disconnected events. Your brain has constructed a story, a narrative with characters, emotions, cause and effect, meaning. This is how humans learn and remember best, not through isolated data points, but through stories that connect to our emotions and experiences. A recent study in the Journal of Neuroscience found something fascinating. When people listen to stories told with emotional depth versus just factual details, completely different brain networks activated. Emotional storytelling engaged regions linked to memory, empathy, and personal meaning. Factual storytelling activated more basic information processing areas. This matters because it shows that how we experience information shapes how we remember and understand it. We're not just recording data, we're living through experiences and creating meaning from them. AI can't do this. It can analyze stories. It can generate narratives that follow structural patterns. But it can't create meaning because it has no personal perspective, no lived experience, no emotional stake in anything. When AI writes, "The sunset was beautiful," it's stringing together words that statistically co-occur. When a human writes, "The sunset was beautiful," they're connecting to every sunset they've ever seen, every emotion sunsets have triggered, every memory associated with that golden hour light. That's the difference between correlation and meaning. Let's get specific about what AI fundamentally lacks. Common sense. This sounds simple, but it's devastating for AI. Common sense is the practical knowledge that humans acquire through living in the world. It's knowing that ice is cold, even if you've never touched ice, because you understand how temperatures work based on countless experiences. AI can be trained on millions of facts, but it doesn't develop common sense because common sense requires embodied experience and flexible reasoning. Here's an example. You tell an AI, "I left my ice cream on the counter and went for a walk." Any 5-year-old knows your ice cream melted. But AI might need to be explicitly trained on that specific scenario. Why? Because understanding requires connecting multiple pieces of knowledge. What ice cream is, what happens at room temperature, how time affects physical states. In a flexible, intuitive way, emotional intelligence. Humans can read a room. We pick up on subtle cues, a slight change in tone, a forced smile, a moment of hesitation. We understand that when someone says, "I'm fine" in a certain way, they're definitely not fine. AI can be trained to recognize basic emotions from text or facial expressions, but it doesn't understand emotions. It can't feel empathy. It can't connect to the deeper human experiences that emotions represent. When you comfort a grieving friend, you're not just pattern-matching responses. You're drawing on your own experiences with loss, your understanding of that specific person, your emotional capacity to sit with discomfort and pain. AI simulates empathy. Humans embody it. Adaptability to true novelty. Humans excel at handling situations we've never encountered before. We improvise. We use analogies from completely different domains. We get creative when our usual approaches don't work. AI, for all its power, struggles with genuine novelty. It can handle variations on patterns it's seen, but throw something truly unprecedented at it and it falls apart. Why? Because human adaptability comes from general intelligence, the ability to apply knowledge flexibly across domains. AI has narrow intelligence. Even when it seems broad, it's applying learned patterns, not truly understanding principles that transfer moral, reasoning, and ethical judgment. This is huge. Humans don't just compute optimal outcomes. We wrestle with values. We struggle with ethical dilemmas. We choose to do what's right even when it's hard, even when it goes against pure logic. AI has no values. It can be programmed to follow ethical guidelines, but it doesn't understand why those guidelines matter. It doesn't experience moral conflict. It can't take genuine ethical responsibility for its decisions when a self-driving car has to choose between two bad outcomes. It follows programmed rules. When a human faces the same choice, They feel the weight of that decision. They experience morale, anguish. They take responsibility. That's not just a difference in processing, it's a difference in being. And finally, free will and agency. Whether free will truly exists is debated among philosophers. But humans experience agency. We feel like we're making choices, steering our lives, authoring our own stories. AI has no agency. It responds to inputs based on its training. It has no desires, no goals it chose for itself, no sense that it's living its own life. This matters more than you might think, your sense of agency. Your feeling that you're the author of your actions shapes your entire experience of being alive. It's fundamental to meaning, purpose, and identity. AI will never have that. Not because we haven't made it smart enough, but because agency requires something AI doesn't have, a self with its own perspective and stake in existence. So where does this leave us? AI is powerful, incredibly powerful. It will continue to transform our world in ways we can barely imagine. It will augment human capabilities, solve problems we couldn't solve alone, and push the boundaries of what's possible. But here's the truth that research makes crystal clear. AI is not going to replace human minds. It's going to be a tool, an incredibly powerful tool, but still a tool. The future isn't about AI versus humans. It's about AI and humans working together. Think about it this way. A calculator is vastly better than humans at arithmetic. Does that make humans obsolete? No. It frees us from tedious calculation so we can focus on higher-level thinking, deciding what problems to solve, interpreting what numbers mean, applying quantitative insights to real-world situations. AI is the same, just at a higher level. It can process vast amounts of data, recognize complex patterns, and generate outputs based on those patterns. But it needs humans to provide purpose, meaning ethical judgment and creative direction. Your job as a human in an AI world isn't to compete with machines at what they do best. That's a losing game. Your job is to double down on what makes you uniquely human. Develop your emotional intelligence machines can't replicate, genuine empathy and human connection. Cultivate your creativity. Not just being creative, but developing your ability to think in genuinely new ways, to break patterns, to imagine possibilities that don't exist in any training data. Hone your judgment. In a world flooded with information, the ability to discern what matters, what's true, what's ethical, that's invaluable. Build meaning. Create stories, construct purpose, develop wisdom from experience. These are fundamentally human activities that AI can assist with, but never replace. And here's something researchers are increasingly realizing. Consciousness itself might be humanity's ultimate competitive advantage, not because it makes us better at specific tasks. AI often beats us there, but because consciousness means we're not just processing information, we're experiencing existence. We care about things. We find meaning in our lives. We have a subjective perspective that makes everything matter. That's not a weakness. It's our deepest strength. The philosopher Pascal Bornet, in his book Irreplaceable, argues that humans have what he calls humics, uniquely human abilities rooted in our lived experiences, emotions, and personalities. These abilities, genuine creativity, critical thinking, and social authenticity, can't be authentically replicated by AI. Notice the word authentically. AI can simulate these abilities, but simulation isn't the same as the real thing. When AI comforts you, it's following patterns. When a friend comforts you, they're connecting human to human, consciousness to consciousness, in a way that machines fundamentally can't. So here's my challenge to you. Don't fear AI. Understand it. Use it. But never forget what makes you irreplaceable. You're not just a biological computer running algorithms. You're a conscious being with emotions, experiences, creativity, and the capacity to create meaning from existence itself. That's not something any machine can replicate. Not now. Not ever. The silent battle between AI and the human mind? It's not a battle at all. It's a dance, a collaboration, a partnership where each brings something the other lacks. AI brings computational power, pattern recognition, and tireless processing. Humans bring consciousness, creativity, emotion, meaning, and purpose. Together, that's where the real magic happens. Remember, in a world of artificial intelligence, your human consciousness isn't a limitation. It's your superpower. Thanks for watching. If this video changed how you think about yourself and AI, hit that like button. Subscribe for more informational videos.